My name's Grant Cohn. I cover the 49ers for All 49ers Sports Illustrated. I'm with the legendary Howard Balzer, who's been covering the NFL forever and covers the Cardinals for Sports Illustrated as well. Howard, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure to be with you, Grant. I really enjoy it. Great to be here in week 1 of the NFL season.
My dad says hello, by the way.
Okay, good. Say hello to him for me, too.
So I have a few questions 49er fans would like to know the answers to about the Cardinals, and I can answer any questions you may have about the 49ers. First question I have for you is, what are the strengths of this Cardinals team?
Well, we're going to find out starting on Sunday, but I think the strengths certainly are one of the big strengths is the offensive weapons that they have now. Of course, with adding DeAndre Hopkins, having Kenyon Drake for a full season. He was only there for the second half of last year, and the offense really started to come on in that second half of the season once he arrived. And so there's no doubt that that's a strength with the offensive system that Cliff Kingsbury is running. It's going to be very interesting to see how he attacks it. He likes to throw it, but he likes to run it also. And so the key will be the team's offensive line. But I don't think there's any doubt the strength of this team is with the offensive weapons that they have, especially led by DeAndre Hopkins.
Have you seen him practice at all? Have you seen him in person?
I've only seen him a little bit. I wasn't here for training camp, unfortunately, but all indications are he's everything that everybody says he is. Certainly, I've seen him in past years,
right?
And what he's capable of, and he can do a lot of things. He can play in the slot, he can play outside, and the key will be he didn't practice a whole lot during training camp, so the key will be he and Kyler Murray getting on the same page together. How long will that take? But when it does, I think that's going to be a pretty dynamic duo.
Right. In that sense, you could argue that this would be the best time to face the Cardinals. In that sense, what is the Cardinals' biggest weakness right now heading into week 1?
I think I'll tell you something. I look at this roster and I don't see a lot of weakness. Now, some would say maybe the offensive line because, they signed Kelvin Beachum in the middle of July just to be another guy to compete on the line and give them depth. And then Marcus Gilbert, who was supposed to be the starting right tackle, decided to opt out. So Beachum is now going to be the starter. But they have experience in there on that line. But certainly going against good defenses like the 49ers are going to put out there, it's a challenge. And I think, Grant, overall, this season, I wrote about this on the site, especially at the beginning of the year, is going to be a challenge for a lot of offensive lines because without the contact, without the physical play that you get in preseason, getting accustomed to game speed in preseason games, and you're going, I've characterized this. Some say 0 to 60. I'm saying it's more like 0 to 75. Going from practice to game speed in the NFL. So that's going to be a challenge for a lot of offensive lines. But if there's one thing on this team that they obviously have to have happen, is a good line, because Kyler Murray was sacked 48 times last season. And believe it or not, 35 of them came on first or second down. So they have to improve on that to be able to take advantage of all those weapons they have. And yet they still had a pretty good offensive year. Just imagine if they didn't have that, what their offensive numbers might have looked like, because they had 14 sacks that were of double digits or more.
Yeah, pass protection could be an issue all around the league. Just if you think about conditioning being an issue with no preseason, these guys don't get to rotate out. Defensive linemen, they can have a whole platoon rotation. Right. By the fourth quarter, some of these offensive linemen could be sucking air. Very good point. Let me ask you about the head coach, because I think a lot of people kind of put him in the same category as Kyle Shanahan. Would you consider Cliff Kingsbury a complete head coach yet, as opposed to just an offensive coordinator? And would you say he's in the same league as Kyle Shanahan?
I don't think you would put him in the same group as Shanahan yet, and mainly because of what the 49ers accomplished last year. They showed that they can win games. The previous 2, they didn't. Obviously, there were a lot of injuries to different players, but the games they won last year showed the ability of what Kyle Shanahan can do beyond just being a great play caller. So Kingsbury has to prove that, and he's new to the NFL. And when he was in college at Texas Tech, they threw the ball all over the place, but they didn't win a lot of games. So no, I think the jury is out on him. But I think the one thing, though, I have seen and hear players talk about it is how much he listens to the players. He's not all hung up on himself that, oh, I got to run it this way no matter what. Last year, he adjusted during the season to, to running the ball a little bit more when things weren't going well. So I think he's not in love with himself that he won't change if he has to. And so I think he's got a good approach to the game. But bottom line is you have to win, and that's what he's going to have to show that he's capable of doing at this level.
He does seem extremely creative, and it's interesting you mentioned his flexibility. When Shanahan first came to the 49ers, I thought he was pretty rigid, like pretty into his dad's system, and he has actually evolved it and grown it quite impressively since then. So he's creative too. I appreciate you making the distinction. Final question: who's going to win this game and why?
I would, I think this is going to be a heck of a game. I really do. I'm not going to be pure homer and say I would not be surprised if the Cardinals win, but I think the 49ers probably win this game, mostly because of their experience I mean, when we say big games, an opener is always a big game, even though it's not the last game of the season to get into the playoffs or a playoff game, but it is a big game. And the Cardinals have to prove they can win against good teams and get off to a good start. Also, they've been a bad September team for 4 seasons. So I think it will be a close game, but I do believe the 49ers will probably win.